Now we're going to enter into a different period in Egyptian history. This is part of the New Kingdom, but it's a new period. And it's known as the Amarna period, Amarna. And the Amarna period involves a single pharaoh by the name of Akhenaton, who you see here. And he's famous for one thing. He basically comes in, says, you know what, I know we've been dealing with the same religion for 2,000 years, but I really want to get rid of that. So he does, and goes to a monotheistic faith, worshiping a god by the name of Aton, A-T-O-N, a monotheistic god of the sun, and basically wipes out the old Egyptian religion for all intents and purposes during his reign. This makes him, well, you can imagine just how popular this would make him. Imagine the president suddenly saying that we all need to join into a new solar cult and all other religions are banned. You can imagine what people would do. So we have this sculpture of Akhenaten, and when we look at it, it's going to stand out as quite unusual. First of all, he has these very long features in the face. Now, we don't know if that's due to some kind of genetics, if that's due to some kind of disease, or if that's actually what he looked like. You also notice his body takes on some feminine characteristics, a very wide hips, a little bit of a prominent belly. And there's a few theories behind that he could have suffered from something called Froelic's syndrome, or he could be depicting himself as androgynous because he wants to be like David Bowie. And if you don't know who David Bowie is, please look it up on Wikipedia. But he may be androgynous to reflect the sexless sun god, this god without gender. He's not popular and is quickly dismissed and destroyed after his death. And this depiction, he's got the classic beard, the classic headdress, the crook and flail, which we'll talk about later. It's that body form that is so different. And it's not an idealized body form, which is, again, unusual for a pharaoh. Now, he is a queen who goes by the name of Nefertiti. And she is queen to Akhenaten. Now, Akhenaten is also unusual because he only appears to have one queen, Nefertiti. And we find this. This is a sculpture of Nefertiti that is unfinished. A man by the name of Tutmosis is creating it. And why is it unfinished? Well, you can imagine if Akhenaten died while this is being produced, the next pharaoh wants nothing to do with him. So the sculptor, knowing that he's not going to get paid, basically sets it aside and moves on to the next thing. We see the same thing in the U.S. if there were sculptures of Barack Obama being done when Donald Trump came into power. Donald Trump isn't going to want to pay for sculptures of his predecessor. So you kind of get the idea of how that would go. And this is a very elegant form. She's a very powerful woman in history. In fact, she's wearing a pharaonic headdress, or a pharaoh's headdress. She was kind of seen as a co-ruler to Akhenaten, and we see that pharaoh's headdress there. And she looks quite glamorous. We get an idea of sort of the perfect female form, at least the perfect female head from this sculpture. And we also see something else unusual. And it's one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it. You look at the form, it looks fairly normal. The lips look fairly normal. The eyes, the nose, very good bone structure. But then you notice this. Her neck is enormously long. They've elongated the neck to make her look more graceful. And this is something that we will be doing through the Renaissance and later, elongating women's necks to make them more graceful. Although once you see it, it almost becomes disturbing. And she's idealized here, which is a little unusual for a female form. But she's being seen as almost a godlike form. So this could be why we're seeing the idealization. Or her relationship to Akhenaten. If they're particularly close, as a sculptor, you don't want to put in anything that would make the queen less glamorous. We also see the use of cosmetics, that eyeliner, the lipstick, etc., being used on a regular basis in Egypt. However, she didn't really age all that well. Just saying.